Lights on the horizon, and I'm trying to find my way back home on my own. But I don't know who I'm supposed to be finding. Is somebody lying? 'Cause I was told I would meet my maker, but now I'm just walking with the Savior tonight. But now I'm just walking with the Savior tonight. Open your doors, don't make no noise.
Good evening. Welcome to Shattering the Narrative. We have a special governor's election edition tonight. We have, with my co-host, Sheila Matthews. Tonight, we have an exclusive interview with one of the many candidates running for the governor's position here in Florida in 2026. Shattering the Narrative believes that all candidates deserve to be heard, for it takes courage to run for office and service the people. We encourage candidates to contact us. This is an open race. The people select the candidates. They are not crowned with money or endorsements. You can say so. Tonight we have Robert Edward Bobby Williams, Jr., GOP candidate for the governor of Florida. And let's welcome him aboard today. Welcome.
Good evening. How y'all doing this evening?
Good. So, Bobby, before we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running to be the governor of Florida?
Yeah, just Bobby Williams, born and raised Central Florida, Winter Haven, Florida, just third generation Floridian. 2001 started a business, got a small electrical communication business, and ran it. It still runs today. It's very successful at that. Then in 2016, started the ministry called the Freedom Tour. So we do food disaster relief all over the country, and really mainly Florida, but we've been to Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Tennessee, North Carolina, a lot of southeastern stuff. We do help some other people up in the upper states, but usually it's very rare. Then COVID hit really 2020, and we've seen the need, just getting out in the community, helping people with whether it's government shutdown now or government shutdown then. We understand the government ain't always there to help. So I figured I have resources, I have the work ethic, I have the willingness to go out and help the community and bless the community, and we did that. And since 2020 to now, we moved over 100 million pounds of product. If you had to buy, it's 350 million gift in kind given back to community. Then never really been a politician, really never cared to be a politician. They're all, I think sometimes we all have that. And I hate to use the word all, because now I'm kind of throwing myself in that category. Mm-hmm. But we all kind of think they're corrupt in the end. They're all self-absorbed, what can they do for them and whoever their donors are. And so I just always steered away from it. I just never was my forte. But, God put on my heart about 2 years ago to run for governor. And he had to prove it to me. And I'm like, why me, Lord? And finally, he was like, why not you? Then the final, straw that broke the camel's back for me was when Trump come in January. And you started seeing all the corruption exposed and really going after it. And we started seeing some change and some difference making, because I hate to say it, but usually politicians, they tell you what you want to hear, but they only do what they want to do. So we know the problems, we know the corruption, we know the issues, but it seems like nothing's never done about it. They talk good stories and tell good stories and fight each other, but we don't see results. So for me, wanting to run is, I'm a fighter, I'm a worker, I'm willing to go out and take whatever it takes to get things done. I understand what it is to start with nothing and build into something, but you got to start somewhere. And I think too many times with politics, they're not willing to start just somewhere. They're waiting until they got everything together, everything figured out, and all the money. And by that time, it's really probably, we didn't turn it into too many problems, more issues, and, nothing ever gets done.
Yeah, nothing ever gets done. That's a problem, that we need a serious change in this country right now. And I first met you. We were able to meet in person. You were gracious enough to come to our club, in the Young Republicans Club, and we really appreciate that. And we noticed you definitely stood out from the crowd a little bit. So first off, we just had a question regarding the overdevelopment of Florida, the sugar farms, Everglades, what do you, and the data centers, all this sort of stuff. What are your thoughts on all this, crazy amount of development going on in Florida right now?
Well, that's what I've learned is, I've only not only personally dealt with it, our county's dealt with it. I think Polk County, where I'm at, is at one time was the fastest growing county in the nation. And we're 15 to 25 years behind infrastructure. And I think that's all over Florida, not just Polk County. But people are just fed up with it. They've had enough. I've had enough. It's back to money and, and greed. And, they don't care what people think. They don't care what the average citizen thinks. They don't even care what anybody thinks. They're going to do what they want to do. And we see that. They just come in and bulldoze over a property and bulldoze. If they can't get one city to do it, they'll get another city to do it. If they can't get a county to do it, and it's just a game they play. And unfortunately, we know sometimes there's maybe some little envelopes slipped in the background somewhere somehow to get people to do what their own bidding, because the everyday citizen is just yelling as loud as they can, stop, enough is enough, and nobody's listening. But no, from the development to even the fisheries, the pollution of waters and all the stuff's going on, and rock mines, all that kind of stuff is enough's enough. How we can't keep destroying everything and expect everything to keep going. And I think that's what the funny, crazy thing is, me and you see it. Everyday citizen sees it. But I swear somehow when you become a politician, you get blinders put on, and you either don't want to see it or you don't want to hear it or don't care, because obviously you're benefiting from it somehow, some way. But we can't keep destroying Florida and our waterways. And I mean, for 40 years, I'm 48, since I was a kid, we've had water restrictions, and we still have water restrictions, and we still see Swift Mud today battling these cities of water and trying to find more water in this. But every day, Swift Mud signs on every permit, every house gets built, Swift Mud signing off on it. So there's a problem and an issue.
Oh yeah, definitely an issue. I just driving back from Tampa across the state, and I saw this mosaic. I guess it's Mosaic Factory or something. It's just smoke billowing out from the sky and taking up all this land. Huge facility. I mean, I don't know what it's really doing to benefit Floridians, and that's who I'm worried about. I mean, we got a mayor down in New York, new mayor, I guess. So we're supposed to see some new influx of New Yorkers. I'm thinking down here. So all this influx, new people, they may not think the same and have the same values as us Floridians. So they may not care, but the people that have been out here, we care what's going on in Florida, to the wildlife, to the ocean, to the developments of the small town atmosphere. Like Vero Beach is a small town. And they're really fighting hard. A lot of people are fighting hard to keep it a small town because they're coming up against, everybody wants to build something. I mean, I think there's the Muslim, big Muslim neighborhood, Sharia law neighborhood they're trying to build out here from Epic Estates. And we're not, I don't think the people want that out here, but we're going to see what happens with that. Sheila, do you have a question here?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of hard-hitting questions. A little bit about my background. I run a nonprofit organization. I work with both political parties, but my passion is protecting children and really making sure that they're not put on massive amounts of psychiatric drugs. And, there was a case in the state of Florida, and it was the Parkland shooting. And during the sentencing hearing, the jury heard that Nicholas Cruz had been given cocktails of psychiatric drugs since the age of 9 by the state and one of the state's behavioral health vendors, Henderson. And many of the victims' families petitioned the governor to change the law after the jury did not unanimously recommend the death penalty, leading afterwards to lowering the jury threshold. So instead of having a jury of your peers, all 12 juries convict you to the death penalty. The parents went to the governor and they lobbied through the House and Senate to change that, to make it 8 out of 12 jurors can put you to death. and Governor DeSantis signed that into law. As a candidate for Florida governor, do you believe that anyone accused and convicted of a crime punishable by death should have the full unanimous consideration of the entire jury before being sentenced to death? Or do you support the current law that the governor signed saying that a non-unanimous jury can recommend and impose capital punishment?
I would go with the non, because it's hard to get, you can get 12, how do you get 12 out of 12 people to agree on anything? Especially something of that magnitude. You're talking lives at stake, you're talking, and it ain't just the life that was lost, it's affected everybody's life, and so we have to look at, sometimes it's with everything, there's everything stuck in a box. You can't put everything in a box. Every law, everything is exact the same. That's the problem with a lot of times with government. They got so much red tape on everything that they put everything, it's only this way and this way for everything. And there's some things like this has to change. You know what I'm saying? There's got to be penalties. It's back to law. If we don't have law, I'm a believer. So there's two things. We have a shirt down here we created. The Lord gave me a slogan. Obviously, I'm in Polk County. We have the awesome Sheriff Grady Judd. It says, Polk County, you have a choice, Jesus or Judd. So you either follow Jesus and you become love and love everybody, or you got to obey the law. And if you don't obey the law, you got to answer to the law. And if you're not willing to do that, that's a problem with the cross street, is there's no consequences. And there's no hard consequences like child rape, child molestation, all this kind of stuff. It keeps happening. I don't believe in Muslim law or Sharia law like us, but you get a lot of them countries, you start robbing, stealing, and they start cutting fingers off and wrists off. But I don't believe in that far, but it makes you stop doing that. And sometimes we have to have harder punishments on harder things that make sense to where, to get people to stop doing this nonsense. Because kids to me are special. I mean, we love kids. I mean, obviously, how can you not love kids?
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing you say is that you agree with Governor DeSantis in changing a unanimous jury of your peers of 12 people to 8 that can convict you to death.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So then the next question I have, okay. So you're running for primary against, wait, hold on, let me get my question here. Against Byram, hold on, Donalds. Okay.
Byron Donalds. Yes.
So my question is, Byram Donalds is running for governor as well, and he flipped his position regarding ending the filibuster in the Senate, even penning a letter to the Senate Majority Leader. However, Byram Donalds is not a senator. Florida operates on a time limit on debates on the floor. Congressman Donald had indicated he indicated that it was an outdated rule. Recently switched once he indicated that the filibuster was of value. Now he says it's no value. Do you think he changed his position based on the fact Florida doesn't have the ability to filibuster?
I'm not going to be one of them politicians that talk about other people, but I will say this to everything and everybody. You know them by their fruit. So if you want to know something about somebody, what have they done the last 1 year, 2 year, 5, 10 years of their life? If they've been in politics, what have they done? And whether it's him, and you can go down the whole list of all of them, and it's like I said, this ain't a shot at him or anybody, but I hate to use the word politician because I don't really want to be called a politician because we put them in a box and we call them, but every politician, it pretty much, unfortunately, changes their mind and does what they want to do or say what they want to say to help them get votes, to help them, go further in their career. which I think is totally wrong. Your yes has got to be yes, and your no has got to be no. And that's one thing. I don't want to get too far into it, but I love about Charlie Kirk, is he's what he done in the life he lived is truth. We've got to bring truth to politics. Who are you? What do you really stand for? Who are you willing to do? And if you're willing to flip flop for anything, just because something changes or whatever, then what are you willing to flip flop for when you become governor or whatever seat you become? Because if you're so easily swayed by this or that, you're going to be swayed by money and other, lobbyists and all this other kind of stuff. So that's one reason why I'm running, is to give somebody that option of, I'm not here to flip flop. This is who I am. This is what I'm willing to be. I am who I am. I say what I say, and I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do.
Okay. And speaking of Brian, do you think it is an advantage for him in the race for governorship that he is a lawmaker and has experience passing laws in Congress?
I don't think he has an advantage of that. I think the unfortunate advantage he has is he has other politicians who want him in for whatever reasons, and he has the Republican committee and other people across the state behind him. Do I think? I think there's advantages on that. Obviously, he's on the news every night and that kind of stuff. But an advantage of being a lawmaker and in there, no, because we see that. I mean, how many people? We see Nancy Pelosi stepping down now. She's been in career politics her whole life. You know what I'm saying? What advantage is that? I don't think there's an advantage to that. The only advantage I think is they become part of the system, and the system wants them in, and the system's the problem.
The system's broke. Yeah, the system's broken. But the issue is the system has a lot of money. For instance, he's raised, I'd say he's raised $36 million already. We haven't even primaries. Almost a year away. Elections for almost exactly a year. He's got $36 million. So,
but we see, the good thing is we see with Trump, social media is free, and we see that. Right now we're running over 2 million views a month. We went from really starting with nothing. We're getting, and really no money, no nothing. We're getting 2 million views a month. We're already even on Facebook, which is hard. We just bumped 23,000 followers. And it's every day's hundreds of followers a day, thousands a week, and it's growing, and the message across the state's going. So it ain't always about money. It's just getting the message out there. Do I think he has an advantage? 100%. Do I think it's fair? No. And that's where part of the problem is. It's a system problem, and the system's broken. There's so much we can go on to that.
Yeah, no, well, see, we like to call ourselves a real independent media. We like to be non-biased, give Florida the option to vote, not on any identity politics or any money, money issues. We want to know what's the best deal for Floridians. That's all it comes down to. How can we benefit as Floridians? What is all this? What is development benefiting the everyday Floridian? What is the data centers, all the data centers benefiting Floridians? What is all this stuff, which is, what's been happening, what's going to continue to happen if we continue the same, sort of path, which we're doing pretty good, but maybe we could do a lot better. And there is a lot of struggling, especially in my generation and younger, a lot of struggling Floridians right now. I'm in the Young Republicans Club, and we're battling just for the ability to be able to own a house and have a part of the American dream that used to be available to pretty much everybody.
Yeah, and that comes from developers, because used to you couldn't get so many houses per acre, and acre price wasn't so much. So when you got a developer going in paying 50, 60, 80,000 an acre, then he can get away with putting 12 houses per acre on that. So you multiply that, whatever they paid, times 12. So you're at 300,000-400,000 an acre. You know what I'm saying? Is what it really boils down to, and which drives prices up on everything. And then affordability. Then, like with your data centers, you're talking how much electric are they going to suck up? Then what's that cost coming to us, the taxpayer? And it's back to lobbyists and people getting bought and paid off. Politicians doing it for the wrong reason. Why is it that power companies, every time they ask for a rate increase, they get it? There's no kickback. There's no. Me and everyday Floridians are struggling. We're struggling with affordability. We're struggling with electric bills, utility bills. And from the government aspect, there's no relief coming. We don't see none, don't feel none.
Well, you definitely answered the next question I had was, how is your campaign being impacted? And I loved where you went over the hits of your Facebook. It seems like people are really responding to you, which is great. Another question, Mayor Jerry Demings just announced that he is running on the Democratic side. He is the mayor of Orange in Orlando. His focus will be lowering crime, expanding affordable housing, and managing growth and eliminating toxic politics. If you were chosen as the Republican candidate, how would your agenda be focused, and how will it differ from his?
I laugh because Orlando's horrible with crime, horrible with development, horrible everything he said he wants to go for. He's the mayor of a city that's doing opposite of what he believes in. So it's back to fruit. It's like, how can you tell me you want to do this, and if you've been mayor and nothing changes? So that's the reason why I say it's a biblical, principle. You'll know them by their fruit, and that just shows you. So for one, I'm going to be opposite because I've done that with crime. One thing I've learned along the way is with our food and disaster ministry is if you feed people and go help them with their everyday needs and show them they have value and worth and care for them, you'll see crime rate go down. We actually went into an area and every 6 months, crime rate went down 60% by just going on there and loving people and being a blessing and just treating them like everyday humans. Then obviously, well, the law does their part, but we've seen crime rate come down. We've seen everyday citizens being helped. We help them with food, everything we could, especially during COVID. Like I said, we've given over 100 million pounds of stuff and continue to. We're in schools every day. How can we help the community and give back? And that's just with a little bit I have. My time, my resources, time, treasure, talents I did over the last 10 years of giving back to the community. So I continue to do that. But number one is we got to stop development. Development's a huge problem in Florida. And one way we can do that is just, the easiest way right off the bat is stop rezoning. Don't allow them to rezone it. Because what happens is they go to the city and the city says no, and they go to county says no, then they find a loophole somewhere and they get it rezoned. So just put a quick hit to that and stop rezoning. Then we got to go back to fixing our infrastructure. We got to fix our roadways, and there's a lot of corruption in the state that we got to get rid of. I mean, right now you see, they're doging the state, but what are we actually doing about it? Where are the penalties? Where are the fines? Where are the cutbacks of money that we need to see?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and one of my biggest things is our education system, K through 12, is horrible. It's nothing but testing. We got to get these kids back to being taught life skills and trades and give them opportunity when they graduate high school. They have some kind of future.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do as young Republicans. We're trying to gear up this next generation. They're lost in the social media, all the just the culture today is a little bit different. But yeah, we have a listener, one of our local listeners here is saying, what about foreign investor land banking our land with foreign funds? That's Binford is asking that. What do you think?
No, I don't think we should have no foreign anything coming in. We got to be Florida first. You know what I'm saying? We got Florida landowners, Florida first. I mean, sometimes I understand businesses come in and do stuff, but especially when it comes to landowning and resource, especially water and waterways, we have that. I'm not a big. I'll just be straightforward. I'm not a big foreign guy. I get people asking me all the time, why don't you go to Guatemala? Why don't you go to Haiti and help these people in that? I said, you know how many problems we have in our back door, our backyard
Right
every
here.
day? I can show you everywhere you go, there's a third world country somewhere in your county, and people and churches and ministries, they walk right by it. We have so much help here. We don't need to be helping no foreign anything. We need to help. It's like I said, it's Florida first. We got to help Floridians. I try to do my best with, like I said, the limited resources and time I have, and we do a great job at that. But I know we can do a lot more as governor.
Yeah, it's incredibly. We have an incredibly diverse state. We do need a lot of help here. There is a lot of low income. We appreciate what you're doing with the food, that helping people with food, but we really shouldn't be been in a situation where people can't have a job that's good enough to feed their families. It's just crazy that we are in that situation. They could barely pay the rent because of the property tax. And now we saw Byron Donalds flipping his position multiple times, just trying to see what is going to get him the most votes. I'm not, against the guy, but, who you've been pretty solid with your property tax idea. What's your kind of?
Well, I've said that for 30 years, since I've been a property owner. Why am I paying property tax on something I own? I don't pay it on my TV. I don't pay it on my car. I don't pay it on nothing else I buy. Why am I paying? And to me, the greatest generational wealth that you pass on to your next generation is your house. You know what I'm saying? That's most people, how they pass their wealth down to their next family is through investment of a house. And and a lot of people get that investment handed to them, and they can barely live as it is. Now you're adding property taxes to it, then they lose the house. Then the real estate market loves it because they're going in buying foreclosures and buying tax deeds and all this kind of stuff. But it's not good for the everyday American citizen.
I have a couple more questions. One on where are you with the ICE and deportation? Now, I know there's a lot of controversy about that. I know that people are really up in arms, but different states are defying ICE and not helping them do their job. Where are you with ICE?
Well, so it's back to red tape and it's back to government nonsense. You can't put everything in a box. So I use this. If you come in here the last 4, 5, 6, 8 years intentionally illegally, and you weren't supposed to be here, and you come here and you come for all the wrong reasons, commit crime and live off our government and that kind of stuff, I believe you need to be shipped back. But there's a lot of people who've been here 10, 20, 30 years and built a life and have kids, and I don't disagree with what they did because every one of us somewhere somehow not intentionally break a law, right? You forget to pay your tag, you forget to pay your insurance, you're driving on a suspended license because you forgot to renew your insurance or your tag, and they pull you over and go, hey, your driver's license is out because you ain't got current insurance. So we've all been there and done that, and it's nothing we ever done intentional. But I think even with the illegals, we have so much government red tape, and you got to get lawyers involved and all this to become a citizen, and it's so hard to do to where they got comfortable and you can't. And to me, I don't disagree with them, because the last 10 years there was nothing about coming here illegal. There was nothing about being arrested. You weren't worrying about being deported. You were living your American life, living the American dream and going about it, and you never had that fear. Now all of a sudden it's, we have ICE running around in fear and doing this. So unfortunately, I think that the bad ones that are here and the criminals and drugs, back to what, I want to jump back to what you were talking about with kids and children and even feeding people. you know, I believe as a governor, whether it's been 4 years or 10 years, we've had borders since Florida's been a state. And we have not, as governor, protected our borders. We can blame Joe Biden, you can blame all the administrations behind them, but as a governor, it's our job to protect Florida. And we've had water borders for ever since it's been there. And we've had more drugs come in Florida, than any other state probably, or just equal to the rest of the states. And there's never really been no stopping it till really you see the Trump administration now. So, there's a lot of stuff they let slide and get away with that we shouldn't. But then also with the government red tape and illegals, like I said, ICE, unfortunately now people are getting arrested and they're going after the bad ones. But then you get some people who are just innocent in a car and they're getting hauled off too. And they're getting dragged away from their families, but it's something that, you know, it's got to get worked out. And it's like with every government thing, we've got to learn to do it better. Well, this is what the law says and this is all we're going to do. And
so what would you do differently than Governor now? Yes.
I'm being funny, but I'm being real. I'm a straightforward guy. I like how you don't know the other candidates' names. That's good for me.
No, I
don't know Byron Donald. You don't know their names. That kind of stuff is like, okay. So I like it when people don't know their names. I'm like, well, you're not really voting for them or you're thinking about them, so it's good. But I don't. I think one thing about like I said, DeSantis did. I don't agree with was he jumped on that alligator Alcatraz and that kind of stuff, and I think he's doing a lot of stuff for trying to run for presidential campaign, and that's my frustrations with him. I'll say, the last year he's putting some good initiatives and good things, but where was you at 7 years ago? Like property tax. Why now? We've been crying for property tax for as long as we can say. So why now? So there's so many issues that we should be doing differently. And with ICE, it's you got to let them do their job, but you got to have you got to have them to where you bring people in, look at them. Hey, do they have a family? Do they have kids here? What's their situation? And you got to, like I said, give them a 2-year, 5-year grace program. Hey, you've been here. You got no criminal record. You have a job. You're paying taxes. You're a productive citizen. You're productive in every way. You're doing everything you're supposed to do. So let's give you a 2-5-year trial. See what you're doing. Come back. Give us. I don't mean this the wrong way because it could be portrayed the wrong way, but almost, and I'm got to be very careful with this, but you would treat them not as a sexual predator, but in a sense, we need to know where you are. We need to know what you're doing. We need to know everything about you in a sense of if you move, we need to know where you move. We always need to know where you are. So that way, if something does happen, we can find you and get, do what needs to be done. But just do something like that with our program gives them an opportunity to redeem themselves and go, hey man, I ain't done nothing wrong. I just didn't go, I went to go get my visa and it was so much paperwork and hours and I couldn't afford the lawyer and all this kind of stuff. And that's another issue we have with the legislation. Everything has to have lawyers and all this lawyer stuff. Why can't it be so simple and easy, make it more applicable?
Yeah.
Okay, now Governor DeSantis, I might blame it on age. Okay.
Well, tell us how old you are then.
20.
27,
okay. So Florida, Governor DeSantis has had an excellent Surgeon General. And he was really outspoken during COVID. And I loved it. I just really want to know where you stand regarding, the freedom in medical decisions. We have Secretary Kennedy on the federal level that's really turning the heat up on corruption in the NIH. And I really felt that during COVID, Florida was a beacon of hope for the world. Where do you see where he did well, and maybe you don't agree with me, and where would you see your administration and your Surgeon General?
Well, I would have never shut the state down. We understand people live paycheck by paycheck. Until you got something in place to do that, it was bad. I didn't shut down. I didn't mask. I didn't take no shots. I believe in, freedom of, what you believe in. I believe in the blood of Jesus. I believe in, he said by his stripes we're healed. I believe in that. I'm not a big medicine kind of guy. I don't run to the doctor all the time. There's a lot of things we can self-help, self-eat, do a lot better. I think the problem with part of America is the pharmaceutical. A lot of these politicians are bought and paid for by that. They push all these medicines. You said it earlier, even with the kids. A lot of these kids are putting on drugs, and they're just kids. I mean, whether it's ADHD, all this kind of stuff. I think I don't care who you are. You stick me in a room for 12 hours or 8 hours a day. You end up going stir crazy, and it's like, how do we calm these kids? So you're drugging these kids in a sense. I don't mean this wrong. I'm not a big medical marijuana guy either, because pretty much whether it's medical marijuana or it's a drug, you're pretty much getting yourself high, which you can't move, you can't talk, what I'm saying? Calm yourself down supposedly to try to get you to do stuff. And people are active. Kids need to be outside, they need to be playing, they need to have fun, and you can't just expect them to stick them in a classroom all day and expect anybody to be sane.
Mm-hmm. And a follow-up question to that, how would you, I guess, pick your Surgeon General? And I guess after the last question regarding that is with the pharmaceuticals and the behavioral health vendors that run foster care, that run a lot of these programs where they are drugging the kids, would you give them liability protection like they have now, where when they are involved in a mass shooting and their products and services are, would you protect them from any liability because they
I
have
don't
a
think
state contract?
I don't think no, you can't protect nobody from liability. I mean, if you're doing something wrong, it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem with we give these people free rides up the side. It's everybody should be accountable, for your actions and reactions. You shouldn't be free to, just get away with doing things that ain't right. Things can be done better, and that's where the problem with government is they don't really give you the options. They say this is the way and this is the way we're going to do it. You don't have an option. And it's kind of like COVID. If you don't shut down, you're going to get arrested. That isn't fair. You know what I'm saying? If you
Mhm.
didn't, if you couldn't have church, or you're going to get arrested. And we've seen that. And there's so many things we do put law, which ain't right. We're back to our Constitution rights. We have a freedom.
Mhm.
Yeah, we need to protect that no matter what, and we do want to present the all the governor candidates that could be good for Florida. We believe, we like Byron Donald sounds great. He sounds great, but he's not the only option. We do want to remind everybody there are options. Look at the tickets. I don't know if you want a Democrat mayor of Orange County. I mean, so Mike from To The Point just texted on this. He said his wife was a sheriff or chief who went into the house. She lost her gun on duty that was later used in a murder. So I don't know if that's not verified, but that's what people are saying. But we have options and we got to explore them all, and see
Yeah.
what's good and bad of them all. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. And that's what's not fair to me. You know what I'm saying? This system, I might have to just go off the camera a minute. My phone's supposed to go dead and plug it in and come back.
Okay.
But
You're good. We could wrap up if you got to go.
yeah,
But
I
yeah,
got a couple seconds left. But yeah,
yeah,
that's the problem is everything's stuck in a box and everything's not fair to me. I'm not on Fox News, CNN every night. I don't get the opportunity. I've reached out to every Republican club in the counties, every county across the state, and we've gotten offered by none. Then we reach out to Tallahassee, to Republican committee, and they won't respond to us. And it's like,
Really?
yes,
wow.
they're picking and choosing who they want. So they pick and choose who they want you to vote for, and that's not fair in the end.
It isn't. And what we'd like to do is amplify your message. You are a viable candidate. If there's anything we can do to help your campaign, how can people get in touch with you?
So we got a
And
we've got a website, www.bobbywilliamsforfloridagovernor.com. It's long, but I did that for a reason. So people start spelling it out. It's there, and it comes. Hopefully, the first thing comes up. Then on there, it shows my stances, and obviously, you can send emails and that kind of stuff, and we'll respond back. Obviously, on platforms of TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. So
Yeah. Yeah, you're killing it on that. And we encourage everybody, if you like what Bobby's saying, look at his platform, donate money to his campaign. I mean, I don't know if he's at $33 million yet, like Byron's, but it takes
I'm at
money.
about 30,000. That's all I got.
It takes money to win this stuff. So you believe in him. You want another option. You don't like overdevelopment. Look at his platform. He's great. Maybe he can come to your town. We hope to bring you back here sometime, speak again. I know the people in the Treasure Coast here really like what you had to say. In closing, anything else?
No, I'll be glad to come. I try to encourage people. I say I'm not against. I'm at 1%, so if I drop off, that'll be fine. But
Just keep
I
going till you
encourage
get
people
it.
get venues together, get a group of people together. I'll become speak because I think you need to meet people. You need to see them. You need to know them. That way, you know their character and who they are, not just on TV and the news and won't respond to you like a lot of the big guys do. So I'm very personable. I am who I am. I say and do what I do, and I appreciate you guys for having me on here.
oh, Bobby, it's a joy. It really is. And thank you for your service and for even putting your hat in there. Thank you very much. We really
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
keep
Y'all
it
have a
up.
great
You're welcome in our town anytime. We'd love to hear more about what you're saying. Maybe do some updates later down the road and keep us updated. Look at Bobby William on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms. His content is all out there. We thank you so much, Bobby, for coming on tonight. We really do appreciate it. And good luck on your race. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so that'll be it for our special election edition. Let's catch up with Bobby at another time. Thank you for everybody who listened. Contact him if you have any questions or contact us. I would like to thank IRC Media and Bobby Williams for governor for coming on tonight and really getting down to talking to the people tonight. Thank you. And thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
And good night.
Lights on the horizon, and I'm trying to find my way back home on my own. But I don't know who I'm supposed to be finding. Is somebody lying? 'Cause I was told I would meet my maker, but now I'm just walking with the Savior tonight. But now I'm just walking with the Savior tonight. Open your doors,